Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Global Adventure Show with travel writer Debbie Stone. Welcome, everybody. Today, Debbie Stone, the fire monkey, is taking us for a fire dance in Samoa. Right, Debbie? Welcome back. Travel writer Debbie Stone is here every fourth Tuesday, as you know, and is always taking us somewhere special. And today is really special. She is taking us to Samoa, which is really a lot of people have this on the bucket list, and it's amazing. She went there and also to the national park. So stay tuned for that as a second podcast follow up to this one. And we will connect them all in the show notes so you can listen to this one, listen to the one just in the national park, and read both her stories from there. The national park one is up on nationalparktraveling.com. And this one, all about Samoa, is on blendradioandtv.com. But I do want to give you also this link. Again, on the show notes, samoa.travel. That is where you want to go to plan your adventure once you take a listen to what Debbie has to say, because this fire monkey had a good time. Didn't you, Debbie? Welcome back.
Well, thank you. And yes, I did. It's a fascinating Polynesian island country, and it's right there kind of in the center of the South Pacific Ocean. It's halfway between New Zealand and Hawaii. So it's out there, and it takes definitely effort to get there, but once you do, it's really rewarding if you can get there. It's just a fascinating cultural experience. The landscape is incredibly beautiful. The people are very, very kind and welcoming. So it's a wonderful experience. It's just one of those things where you have to say, I'm going to put forth the effort to get there and figure out how you're going to get there. And we basically got there. We flew to Hawaii and to Honolulu and spent a couple days there, and then from there took a nonstop flight from Honolulu to Samoa, to Apia, which is the capital of Samoa. And the island, it's several different islands. There's like 9 volcanic islands, and only 4 of them are basically inhabited. But the 2 largest really, accommodate or comprise the nation's most of it, 99% of the total land area. I spent my time on Upolu, which is the island that has the capital, Apia, on it. And it's really the center, the commercial center. And, to realize the whole country's population is, 125,000 odd.
Whoa.
So it's not big, but most of them live on those 2 islands, and Upolu and Savai'i. So it was, we decided, okay, we want to spend, and most people do spend most of their time on Upolu, and they can take a boat or a ferry to the other island as well. But anyway, it's fascinating.
Just to get a perspective too, because we talk about America Samoa, of course, there's a national park. So is that America Samoa? Is Samoa American? Where are we on all of that? Because I know it gets confusing for all of us who haven't been there.
So if you refer to Samoa as Samoa, it is the country. It is the nation of Samoa. And if you refer to American Samoa, that is a territory of the United States. And so American Samoa is by tiny little plane about 25 minutes from the nation of Samoa. But, once you get to American Samoa, it is a territory just like Puerto Rico is. And so, under the
It's wild to think about territories, because that's always like you feel like you're back in, back when Arizona was a territory,
Right. But no,
and then the Louisiana Purchase came, it's kind of,
yes. But this is, and so the American Samoa is the territory, and that is where the national park of American Samoa is, which is a part of the national park system. So anyway, it is a bit confusing, and it is confusing when you go from one to the other, because you are definitely crossing the international date line. So that's an experience in itself.
Well, I just think it's really cool that you've done this, and have you always kind of had your eye on going there?
At Samoa, years and years ago, and I tell people this because they're like, why Samoa? And it's like, well, part of the reason, of course, we wanted to get to American Samoa. And this is one of the ways you can do that. But Samoa itself, years and years ago, when my children were little, they had a babysitter. Her name was Leslie, and she came from a big Samoan family in our community. They were
Mm,
all very sports oriented, very, very good athletes. And anyway, Leslie was actually a volleyball player who now I think working at the University of Washington with the volleyball team. But she kind of, got me a little bit interested because I started asking her about the culture, and she would tell me, little bits of it. And it was clear that family was extremely important to the Samoans, and her family was no exception. And when I was there in Samoa, I, of course, saw how important family was. So it was, it's just one of those things. You want to, think about it for years, and then, this whole trip came about because part of it was, we were trying to get to every one of the 63 national parks. Decided, hey, well, we can maybe do it this way, and then really get a taste of Samoan culture.
mm, that's cool. That and now, okay, so because I know you've done Hawaii quite a bit, you've done New Zealand quite a bit too. Um, so New Zealand's going to be a little different, but then the cultures may also be connected. Did you feel like this was connected to Hawaii in a
I think
way?
it's connected to all the Polynesian area, whether it's Fiji, whether it's Hawaii, whether it's parts of New Zealand, whether you're dealing with Maori cultures, and
Hmm.
I think there's a common thread that runs through there, and so there is definitely some commonalities, definitely.
Mm. One thing too is it seems like the people are really, really friendly and very spiritual. It seems that family and faith are pretty big.
Yeah, definitely. And when you're driving around the island, you'll note that, first of all, there are no cities other than the capital city of Apia. There are just villages, one after another. And you can tell when you're getting into a village because there's little signs, but also the roadsides, like certain villages will have containers of flowers along the road. And then another village might have the Samoan flags along the road. And so you'll go from one village to another. But the one thing that you really note is that each village has churches, several churches sometimes, and in all shapes, all sizes, all denominations, because it is central to their way of life. And Sundays are observed as a national day of rest. And so, you really get the sense that faith is important. Also, to understand that each village, operates through a village council, but they each have chiefs, which are leaders of families, of extended families. And they are, it's a real honor to be a chief and have this title, but you have, a duty and a responsibility in terms of the operation of the village and the well-being of the people in the village.
Mm. So, and then that kind of shines through with them in their personality, it seems, you know.
Absolutely. I think,
Mm.
as I mentioned, the housing structure situation, parents, children, and even married children all live together in usually a compound of sorts, which has several houses, and they often have a large structure, or larger structure, which has no walls, basically. And these serve as gathering places for the family. They also sleep there sometimes. They also can eat in there. So it's very interesting to drive by and you see them one after another. These like large, without walled structures, and so they're compounds, and you
Mm.
know all the family lives there, and so you've got a number of people, and their families are definitely big. They love having children, and so it's important to them, family and faith, and so together, that's what they put their priorities on.
Mm, it's like, yeah, it's the village is raising the kids, you know. That's kind of it reminds me of
Definitely.
Africa a little bit like that, you know,
Yeah,
where
definitely,
where
definitely.
everyone's together. So tropical paradise, right? You do mention that it does happen, but it seems to be like you can have different experiences from resort to not so resort, depending on what you want as a visitor.
I think, yeah, people who go to Samoa, they go for the cultural experience, but they also go because it's a tropical island nation, and so the beaches are important, so people like the snorkeling. They also like to hike, or they like, they love, there's lots of waterfalls, and there's lots of nature, and so there's a number of things that you can do besides enjoying your lounge chair by the beach. And most people like to see parts of the island, and getting around the island, as I mentioned in my story, you can take guided tours. There are plenty of guided tours. They'll pick you up at your hotel or resort, and they'll take you around. You can order a taxi. You can take one of their open air buses that you basically wave down as they come by, or you can rent a car. And we decided to rent a car because we wanted the freedom and the independence to kind of explore on our own and spend time where we wanted to. And so it's important to note, of course, that they drive on the left side of the road.
Wow. So
And
like New Zealand. Yeah.
exactly. So they operate by that. That's where they take their cue from. And the roads, though, can be very challenging because there are a lot of potholes and ruts,
Mm-hmm.
and also they're narrow and lane divisions, and you share them with all manner of animals. There's a lot of feral
I
pigs
love it.
running around, and there's
I love it.
there's dogs, and then there's people that are walking on the side of the road. And so sometimes it's especially if it gets nighttime, you have to be real careful because you don't see somebody until you come up upon them, so to speak. So, it's a challenge to drive. I think it's part of the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
I kept telling my husband, left, left, stay left, left,
Well,
because, it's like sometimes you get, you get kind of complacent and you
yeah,
forget,
the
especially if you're
left.
making a turn, it's kind of like, oh,
Yeah,
get
but
into that lane, it's like,
I think I may have told you, like when my friend from South Africa came here last year, and my brain went South African, and it was like the day after we were I think we were driving south or something from Michigan, and I was getting off an interstate and needed to turn left. Well, I turned left into the oncoming traffic
ah,
lane because I'm used to that
right,
from
right,
South Africa. My brain
right.
just reverted just in that split second. And then Nancy's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like,
I know.
"I'm turning left." The light said turn left, so I did. It was like quick, quick, and you couldn't, that was a mess. But I don't actually know how I got myself out of it, but I did. But I think it's fun, and if you have a good
Yeah,
attitude and you're, sorry. And I
yes,
think in those, you're not in New York City trying to drive in that, but
no,
Mexico is like that for me. Like we used to, when we lived in Mexico, we didn't go driving around at night unless it
no,
was to a neighbor's down the street or something because of the potholes and the animals and stuff like
right,
that, and you
right.
just had to keep your wits about it, but it is part of an adventure. I do want to
It is.
ask, okay, so when you went to the territory, America Samoa, did
That
they,
reverts, yeah, they revert back to
no,
the United States. So
oh
we got a
my
car there
God,
too. And then we're like, okay, now we're on the other side. And then,
no,
at the end of the day, we're flying back and now we're on the other side. And
now
it's
you're
like,
in Hawaii and Hawaii is American. So it's
yeah,
like,
it's really
oh,
pretty funny. You have to kind of keep your wits about you, and also the time difference because, you can leave, for example, we left on a morning on a Monday morning to go to American Samoa, and you arrive on a whatever we left on a Tuesday and we arrived on a Monday, and then we left on a Monday
no.
and arrived back on Tuesday, and it's we have to keep track of those things, especially with flights, because it's very confusing, I'll tell you.
What's the internet like there?
It's not bad. It's
Okay.
okay. Thank goodness they have uh, Google Maps, which really
Yeah.
helps if you're in the right area to receive them. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's good to download. Well, Google has that thing where you download
yep,
them. So if you go offline, I
right.
love that function.
Yes,
I'm like,
yes.
yeah, I used to be anti all of the GPSing and all of that, and then I learned pretty
No,
quickly, no, thank goodness. Yeah.
Because if you can't
Um,
get service, you can't get the maps,
yeah, yeah,
and
you
so
need
it's
them.
best to get them ahead of time and then have them there for you because, there were pockets of places where we had no internet when you're driving around some of these places, so
Good tip.
definitely, yeah, yeah,
Tell
definitely.
tell us about. I want to get to Robert Louis Stevenson because that's huge. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought he was in Hawaii. I didn't know he was in Samoa. I shouldn't say
Yes,
Americans.
he was in
Didn't know
Samoa.
that
Well,
too.
he's,
Go ahead. Let's talk about him. Yeah.
he spent the last 5 years of his life in a plantation home that he built called Villa Vailima, and he's actually buried, up on the mountain, which is right above that, called Mount Vaca, which you can also visit. But we all know how famous Stevenson is and was
Mm.
in terms of Treasure Island, Kidnapped, Child's Garden of Verses. But his love of adventure, he loved traveling and he loved Polynesia, brought him to the South Pacific. But it was also his medical condition, which doctors now surmise that he had undiagnosed TB. He sought out warm climates with the hopes of finding some relief. And in Samoa, he continued to write, but he also became an advocate for Samoans, and he was beloved there. They named him Tusitala, which is teller of tales. It means teller of tales. And when he died in 1894, the house changed hands for like 100 years, and it wasn't until then, after that, that it was opened as a house museum due to the efforts of two American businessmen who were also missionaries. And so now it's a kind of a mecca for Stevenson, fans and for other tourists, and recognized as an institution. We loved the guided tour that we had. It was remarkable. And you'll see bedrooms of his wife and her daughter and daughter's son. Stevenson never had children himself. And then there's, photos and paintings and sculpture. And our guide was just so full of wonderful info, and she was regaled us with lots of stories. And then she ended the tour doing something I have not seen or heard, which was she sang words of the late author and song, which was just beautiful.
Wow.
And it was really clear that she, felt very strongly and passionately about telling the story.
That to me is when you get to have those kind of experiences, it's
Yes.
touching,
Oh, it makes
especially in a small country like that.
and it makes it, really, I don't know. It made it much more. It made it unique and very special. And I think most tourists who go will stop at the Stevenson major attractions. Many of the other attractions are wonderful nature and beautiful waterfalls, and one of the like a trench. There's an
Hmm.
ocean trench there that is quite interesting. And a deep swimming hole, and it's basically sinkholes that are connected by a lava tube. And you go down the steep ladder and you jump in, and people love going there. They love going to these rock pools, and they love seeing all these wonderful they're great swimming spots, and you'll see a lot of the locals in a lot of these places. And there's some hikes there too. I do need to tell people that it is a Polynesian country, and it is
Hmm.
the climate is very humid and very warm. And so it does take a little time to get used to, and you can
Oh,
definitely definitely exhausting it sometimes. So we didn't do any like intense hiking because it just very humid and hot. We're in these
mm.
forests and areas, and some of the hikes go on people's land, and they will stop you and they will ask you for toll to get across their land.
Oh,
So
okay.
some of it is, yeah. So it's quite an interesting. Like if you want to see some of the waterfalls, they will stop you, and you will need to pay a nominal amount to get access
Yeah,
to that.
well, that makes sense. It's a different country and they do it in a different
Yeah.
way, but you're helping them, and it seems that they're preserving it nicely, though, right?
Yes,
So,
definitely, definitely. And most things are very, they're They're marked in a certain way. Some things are not marked as well, but so it's once again it's part of the adventure. I think for people who go, and a lot of travelers who come who are very interested in the cultural traditions will want to go to the Samoan Cultural Village, which is in Apia, and they do a wonderful several hours of demonstrations and also food, and it was very enlightening, very informative, and highlights do that.
I think that was interesting when the reading about this because you got to learn about the food and wood carving and the dance performance and music like you're talking about too, but also the tattooing.
Yeah.
Excuse me, the House of Pain.
Yes.
Um, so this is not tattooing like what we think about. This is like no, this kind of made me feel like we're going into a doctor's office from the 17 or 1800s, like a dentist, maybe kind of tools. Nancy's cringing on the other side as I'm recording this with you because I brought up these tools. So
Yes.
this is not for the weak of heart.
No, and you're not allowed to take any pictures, which is understandable. And to enter it, and they
Hmm.
do call it the House of Pain, you need to show
Wow.
respect. You need to remove your shoes, your hats, your sunglasses, put your cameras down, and you need to sit quietly and listen to the guide explain while you're watching. And it was uncomfortable. This is a traditional way of tattooing, and on the island of Upolu, there are two families who are the tattooists, and those are the two families that do these tattoos. And you become a master tattoo artist. It takes many years, and it's a position of honor in the society. And people look
Mm.
to you to get a tattoo as a rite of passage. And
Wow.
mostly a lot of men, and we witnessed it. They use these traditional tapping tools, which are stainless steel tips. That's
Oh,
carried out without anesthesia, and it can be painful. And there is usually a master tattooist with two assistants who are helping to hold the body while he's doing this. And then there is another uh, family member who is sitting there, and that family member is a family member of the individual getting the tattoo, and he is there for. And
wow.
it takes a long, long time. You want a full body, which is basically kind of your lower torso, upper legs. That's considered a full body, and it takes a couple weeks doing this about 5 hours a day. Accomplish this feat,
Five
and I
hours a
believe
day.
yeah, and I believe it costs about I think $5,000 or some amount. That's what our guide mentioned to us. But it's it's fascinating. It's a little uncomfortable to watch, to listen to it as what's going on. But it was definitely eye opening, just like seeing any other traditional. But this was this I never really knew about.
Mm.
It was interesting. I mean, wood carving, they do it very traditionally without power tools, which I've seen in many places. The cooking was another interesting thing. That was something that we, watched in the beginning, how they, set up, uh, the Samoan meal, and they wrapped everything in these leaves, and then they have this oven that is basically an earth oven, and it's called umu, and pack all these volcanic rocks together. They light them up to get it hot, and then they, wrap the items like seafood or chicken or taro or breadfruit, bananas. They're wrapped in coconut and banana leaves, and then they put them on the umu, and then they cover it all with banana leaves, and they seal it in and cook it for about an hour. And so at the end of all these demonstrations, we got to weave our own baskets
Ooh,
um,
cool.
with coconut fronds, and then they present you with the food that they have cooked while you've been going through these different demonstrations. So it's kind of a full circle thing, and that was fascinating. And also, yes, you learn that coconut is definitely the plant of life for Samoans, and they really rely on it, and also taro and breadfruit and banana and fish. Those are some of the staples, and you'll see a lot of that at these. Just like in Hawaii, you go to a lua, they have a fia fia, which is kind of the same thing. It's a big celebration, and a lot of the hotels and the resorts will have a weekly fia fia night. And so that's, you'll go and you'll have some of these traditional foods, but then you'll be treated to a really wonderful show. And just like at the cultural center, they do have dancing, which is wonderful to watch. It's very mesmerizing music, and then at the Fia Fia they do the fire dance, which is another very traditional, ancient Polynesian art. So that was very exciting.
It sounds like fun. I mean, and you got to go snorkeling, got
Yes,
waterfalls.
yes.
Was that pretty
Yeah.
with the coral reefs? It's
Oh, it's
like their coral
beautiful.
reefs have
Yeah.
been pretty protected.
Yeah, and lots of fish, lots of colorful fish. And, you can go to definitely different dive areas with different organized tours. But where we stayed, which was called the Sinalei Reef Resort and Spa, it was right on the ocean, and you could just walk from the beach right out in there and, snorkel. They had snorkeling equipment for you to use. And so, to me, it was easy to do, and I liked that aspect of it. So beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful resort. Actually, we found out that it is where King Charles will be staying with
Oh,
when he comes to Samoa for the first time in the fall.
wow.
And so, yeah, it was chosen to be the place for
The
them to
place.
stay at. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So,
I was going to say too, with going and being able to do that, did they have like glass bottom boats at all? Do,
I don't know if they had bottom boats. I know they had
yeah.
organized dive tours. I don't know if they had glass
Oh, that's
bottom
cool.
boats.
I want
But
to go on a glass bottom
yeah,
boat. I miss those. They were so much fun in
they
Kenya.
are fun. I've been in them, and they are wonderful. They're very special because you really get to see. If you don't want to
Yeah.
go in the water, you get to see
It's like when
things,
the
which is
shark is
fun.
under there, you're going, I'm so glad I'm
Yeah.
in the boat. Like, hello, it's so nice to see you. And, and the moray eel
Hello,
comes by,
hello.
the moray eel, and you're like, oh,
Right,
put my
right.
cocktail and wave at you. You're
Yeah.
beautiful. I just think because that experience, when you have like such clear waters, in certain places, it's just,
Right, right,
amazing. It's just,
right.
I think it's so cool. And, just, yeah, that's cool though, that you've done this and gone in the resorts. I mean, it seems like, you know, just like you could go there as your own little paradise. If you wanted to just
Definitely,
hang out at a resort for the weekend or week, you probably
definitely,
could. But I would want to go do what
definitely.
you did, you know.
I think I would say, and even the people we talked to, there weren't any other Americans staying at the resort. Mostly the people we encountered were from New Zealand or Australia,
Yeah,
actually.
makes sense.
And they're only, it's only a couple hours for them by flight,
Mm.
and so it's an easy trip for them. And if they want something different and special, this is one of the popular places for people from down under to
Yeah, and
go
they like
to.
to hike.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it tramping? Is that the right word? Tramping that they
Yeah,
use
I think
in
it is tramping. Yeah.
New
Yeah.
Zealand? Yeah, go tramping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tramping through the wilderness. But I mean, it seems like you really had an amazing time, but also being out there that you've got hikes, you've got snorkeling, and then we're going to talk about the national park. So everyone, again, that will be linked in the show notes as well, so you can read the article and listen to the interview on that. So, man, what an amazing time! This is
It
this is
was.
cool. And
Yeah,
flowers.
truly
Oh, that one
special.
photo you have with all those flowers in a basket.
Oh gosh.
Like
Yeah.
seriously, that just like
It,
that's like a piece of art.
they put it's all on water, so it's filled with water, the pot or whatever, and then they pick the blossoms and create artistic design
Mm. Oh,
flowers, and it's
we the
beautiful.
fire dance. We got to you can't go without because Fire Monkey went to a fire knife dance.
Yeah, the fire dance was like really a highlight of that Fia Fia celebration. But the men and boys basically have these like fire knives, which are like batons, and they're lit on either side, and then they, twirl them around their necks, they twirl them under their legs, they throw them up, and they catch them, and it's all done to this, very mesmerizing beat of music, and you're amazed at their coordination. It's quite amazing. And where I attended, which was at a place called the Return to Paradise Resort, the employees were the dancers. So these were people that you might see if you were staying at the resort who would be working at the resort, but they were so really excellent, really good performers, and very talented dancers. It was lots of fun. Yeah.
Very cool. And you got your seafood. I know you got happy on that. That's it.
Definitely.
Well, everyone, Fire Monkey, Debbie Stone is here on Big Blend Radio every fourth Tuesday, excuse me. And again, like I said, links are in the show notes for her article. This one is up on blendradioandtv.com, and make sure you click through to hear one about the national park, because this is just epic. This is bucket list stuff. We love it. We love it. Thank you, Debbie.
Well, thank you. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Big Blend Radio's Global Adventures Show with travel writer Debbie Stone. Debbie is here every fourth Tuesday. You can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com.